Little girl cries, "Help my struggling mom. She has no one left." What the billionaire did next will leave you speechless. Before we begin, I want to ask you, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. I'd love to know. Now, imagine a tiny apartment, a young girl clinging to hope, and a mother doing everything she can protect her child from a world that seems too cruel. This is their story, a story of heartbreak, courage, and an unexpected act of kindness that changed everything. The rain fell harder than usual that evening, drumming a relentless rhythm against the thin windows of their small, dim apartment. Each drop seemed to echo the emptiness that had settled inside Maria and Lily's lives, a reminder that the world outside didn't notice, didn't care. Lily, a fragile little girl of 7, clutched her mother's hand with both of hers, her small fingers curling tightly as if her grip alone could hold back the tide of despair that threatened to overwhelm them. Her face was pale, streaked with tears, and her lips trembled as she whispered, "Help my mom, please, she has no one left." The words were soft, almost breaking apart under their own weight, but they carried a raw, urgent truth that filled the silent apartment. Maria sat slumped on the worn-out couch, her shoulders hunched, her face drawn and hollow from sleepless nights and endless worry. Bills lay in scattered piles on the table, half-eaten food sat in bowls forgotten, and the hum of the refrigerator sounded like the ticking of a clock counting down to something unavoidable. She tried to smile at Lily, tried to whisper reassurances, but even she could hear the faint tremor in her own voice. I'm here, baby," she said softly, brushing Lily's damp hair from her forehead. "We'll figure this out somehow." But Lily's eyes, wide and searching, mirrored the fear she had absorbed from watching her mother struggle. "Mom, you don't have anyone, it's just us," she whispered, her small voice breaking. "I don't want you to be alone." Maria felt her chest tighten, a wave of helplessness washing over her. She wanted so badly to shield her daughter from this harsh reality, to lift her into a world where love and safety were guaranteed. But life had been unrelenting. She had to swallow the lump in her throat, to breathe through the panic threatening to rise, and remind herself that she couldn't crumble, at least not in front of Lily. The apartment felt smaller than ever. Shadows stretched across the cracked walls, reaching toward them like silent witnesses to their suffering. Every creak of the floorboards, every sigh of the wind outside the window seemed louder, magnifying their solitude. Lily hugged her mother tighter, rocking back and forth in a rhythm that was almost instinctive, almost protective, tried to shield both of them from the crushing weight of reality. Maria's hand trembled as she held her daughter, brushing tiny fingers over her hair, wishing she could brush away the worry as easily. "I'm scared too, baby," she admitted, her voice barely more than a whisper. "But we're together. That's what matters. That's what keeps us strong." Lily's sobs grew quieter, but the tremor in her voice remained. She leaned her head against her mother's chest, trying to be brave, trying to hold on to a fragment of hope she didn't know how to name. Outside, the world continued on, oblivious to the quiet desperation inside that tiny apartment. But somewhere beyond the rain, beyond the shadows, a spark of hope lingered, fragile, tentative, waiting for someone or something to notice. And as Lily whispered again, her small voice cracking, "Help my mom, she has no one left." The apartment seemed to hold its breath, suspended in the weight of despair and longing. It was a moment of raw, unfiltered vulnerability, a moment that could change everything if the right person saw it, if someone chose to step in and rewrite their story. Before the apartment grew quiet with worry and despair, before the weight of bills and loneliness pressed down on them, Maria and Lily had a life filled with small, precious moments, moments that now seemed like distant memories, glowing faintly against the shadows of their struggles. Maria worked tirelessly, often juggling 2 jobs at once, sometimes 3, to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. Yet she never complained in front of Lily. To her daughter, Maria was a superhero, a woman whose strength seemed endless, whose love was unshakable. Even on the hardest days, she found ways to make life feel warm and safe. Lily remembered the mornings when sunlight spilled through the curtains, turning their modest kitchen golden. Maria would hum softly as she prepared breakfast, flipping pancakes that never looked perfect but always tasted like love. Lily would pour syrup with clumsy hands, spilling more than she managed to drizzle, And Maria would just laugh, a soft, gentle laugh that filled the room like sunlight, pushing away the chill of reality. Afternoons were for imagination and adventure. They would walk to the small park down the street, hand in hand, chasing the world as if it belonged to them. Maria spun stories about princesses, knights, and hidden kingdoms, and Lily clung to every word, imagining herself as brave and fearless, always protected by her mother's unwavering love. Sometimes, they would sit on the swings in silence, feeling the breeze against their faces, letting the simple comfort of togetherness fill their hearts. Evenings were quiet and sacred. They would curl up on the worn couch, sharing books or small treats they could afford. Maria would brush Lily's hair and tuck her into bed, whispering, "No matter what happens, I'm here, always." And for a long time, Lily believed it. She felt safe. She felt loved. She felt as though nothing in the world could touch them as long as they had each other. But life, as it often does, had other plans. One job loss turned into two. Friends they had once counted on slowly drifted away, leaving Maria and Lily isolated. Bills that had once been manageable began to pile up. The laughter that filled their apartment grew quieter, replaced by whispered worries and the sighs of exhausted shoulders. Still, Maria tried. She smiled through the stress, carried Lily's backpack to school herself, and stayed awake at night, planning and worrying over the smallest details. She kept their home warm with love, even when the heat was cut off for lack of payment. And Lily, sensing her mother's struggle, tried her best as well, helping with chores, bringing home small treasures from the park, anything to see Maria smile, anything to hold on to a fragment of the life they had once known. But despite their efforts, reality intruded relentlessly. The cozy kitchen became a place of tension. Bedtime stories became whispers of hope, fragile against the storm of bills, debt, and loneliness. And yet, even as the world outside grew harsher, those memories of laughter, warmth, and love lingered in their hearts, reminders of what they had and what they still desperately hoped to reclaim. In those quiet, bittersweet moments, Maria and Lily held on to each other. They didn't know that the hardest days were yet to come, that the weight of the world would soon press down even heavier. But they did know this. As long as they had each other, a flicker of hope remained, a spark that no darkness could fully extinguish. Life seemed to conspire against Maria and Lily, each day heavier than the last. The bills arrived with merciless regularity, each envelope a reminder that survival was no longer a certainty. Groceries were meager, ran overdue, and the quiet apartment felt colder with every passing hour. Lily, small but resilient, tried to help in the ways she could. She swept the floors with careful determination, washed dishes until her fingers were pruny, and attempted simple meals, often creating more chaos than sustenance. Her efforts were clumsy, yet her heart shone through, an innocence untouched by the harshness that surrounded them. "Mom, maybe I can make breakfast tomorrow," Lily said one morning, her voice soft but full of hope. "Even if it's just toast, I want to help." Maria forced a smile, hiding the exhaustion behind her tired eyes. "That's sweet, baby, but don't worry about me. We'll manage together, okay?" But even as she spoke the words, Maria felt a gnawing anxiety in her chest. Every decision, from what to cook to which bill to pay first, felt like a battle she couldn't win. Sometimes, she skipped meals herself so Lily could eat. Sometimes, she lay awake at night, listening to the creaks of the apartment, imagining what would happen if they failed to make it through another month. The world outside seemed indifferent. Neighbors passed by without notice. Bills arrived with cold, impersonal precision, and the streets were filled with people who didn't see them. Not really. The isolation was suffocating. Yet, even in the darkness, Lily's spirit refused to dim. She would draw a picture for her mother, leaving little notes that said, "I love you, Mom. We'll be okay." Small acts of courage, small sparks of hope, reminded Maria why she had to keep fighting. One night, Maria sat by the window, her head resting in her hands, trying to make sense of the endless struggle. I don't know how we'll make it, Lily," she whispered, tears brimming. "Sometimes I feel like the world has forgotten us." Lily crawled into her lap, wrapping her tiny arms around her mother's neck. "Mom, you're not alone. You have me. I'm here, always. And though Maria felt her heart ache with the weight of reality, that simple embrace reminded her that love could endure even the most relentless hardship. Sometimes, the small victories were all they had. Maria would find an extra loaf of bread in the corner shop she could afford, or Lily would share a meager snack without complaint. Each moment of generosity, no matter how small, was a reminder that even in despair, the human heart could still shine. But the nights remained long and quiet. Maria would often sit in the dark, thinking of ways to stretch what little they had, her mind racing with fear and determination at the same time. And Lily, lying beside her, would whisper soft prayers, hoping that someone, anyone, might notice, might help, might change the path of their lives. It was during those nights of whispered hopes and exhausted dreams that the first glimmers of fate began to stir. Somewhere beyond the walls of their tiny apartment, someone was watching, someone who would soon intervene in a way neither Maria nor Lily could have imagined. And though the struggle intensified with every passing day, a quiet resilience began to grow in both of them. For the first time, the notion that life could be different, that hope could arrive, lingered at the edges of their reality. One chilly afternoon, as rain-slicked streets reflected the gray sky, Lily ran an errand for her mother. She clutched a small list of groceries, her little backpack bouncing against her shoulders, and moved with a mixture of determination and fear. Every step felt heavy, not because of the weight of the items she carried, but because of the invisible pressure of survival that pressed down on both her and Maria. Maria had insisted, softly but firmly, "Be careful, Lily. Stay on the main streets. Don't talk to strangers." Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed the worry she could not hide. Lily nodded, her small brow furrowed in concentration. "I will, Mom. I promise." As she walked, her thoughts were filled with the image of her mother smiling, soft, tired, but unwavering. That smile was her anchor, the reason she pushed through her own fears. But the streets were harsh, people moving past without notice, umbrellas shielding faces, hurried footsteps drowning out the soft patter of her own. It was at the corner store that Lily first saw him, Ethan. He was a man who seemed out of place in the drizzle, impeccably dressed, standing beneath the awning as if he belonged to a different world entirely. His eyes, sharp yet observant, followed the comings and goings of the street with a quiet intensity. Lily's cart collided with a stack of canned goods, sending a tin rolling across the wet pavement. She froze, mortified, and bent down quickly to retrieve it. Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentle, yet commanding attention. "Are you okay?" Lily looked up, startled. Her small heart pounded. I'm fine," she whispered, brushing the can with trembling fingers. He smiled softly, a warmth that fell out of place in the cold afternoon. "It's all right. You didn't hurt yourself, did you?" For a moment, Lily hesitated. There was a careful balance in her mind between trust and fear. She had been taught to be wary of strangers. And yet, something about his tone, his calm presence, felt safe. I'm getting groceries for my mom," she said quietly, her eyes flicking toward her backpack. We don't have a lot." Ethan nodded, as if he understood without needing more explanation. He bent slightly, bringing himself closer to her level. "I see. That's very responsible of you. Not many kids would do that for their parents." Lily blushed slightly, looking down at her shoes. She tries really hard," she murmured, "and I want to help." Something inside Ethan shifted at that moment, a mixture of admiration and something he had not felt in a long time. Connection. He had watched people, studied situations, but this was uncalculated, pure, simple, genuine. "I can tell," he said quietly, "and that's something worth noticing. Keep helping each other. It makes all the difference." The brief encounter ended with nothing more than a few exchanged words, yet it lingered in Lily's mind as she hurried home, her small hands clutching the groceries with renewed determination. And for Ethan, the image of the little girl who carried both responsibility and hope stayed with him, planting a seed that would grow into something far larger than either of them could foresee. Later, back in the apartment, Maria noticed Lily's unusually bright demeanor. "What happened, baby?" she asked. Lily shrugged, smiling faintly. Just, someone said something nice today. That's all. And though Maria didn't understand fully, she felt a subtle shift, like a small crack forming in the walls of despair that had surrounded them. Somewhere beyond the rain, someone had noticed their struggle, and that observation, quiet and unseen, would soon change everything. The days that followed the chance encounter carried a quiet tension. Ethan, having observed Maria and Lily from a distance, wanted to understand the depth of their struggle, not in a cruel way, but in a careful, deliberate attempt to see their true resilience. He knew that genuine kindness could not be measured by words alone. It was revealed through actions, through choices made when no one was watching. One morning, as Maria prepared to head out for a secondhand clothing run and Lily fidgeted with a tattered backpack, Ethan decided to take a small, calculated step. He left a wallet, seemingly forgotten, at a nearby park bench. From a distance, he watched as the little girl appeared, tugging at her mother's hand as they walked by. Lily noticed the wallet immediately. It was large and unfamiliar, leather-worn but expensive-looking. She paused, glancing up at Maria with a questioning look. "Mom, what should we do?" Maria hesitated. Her instincts warred with practical concern. She had spent years being cautious, careful, protecting her daughter from disappointment and deceit. But even in her hesitation, she saw Lily's wide, earnest eyes, waiting for guidance, filled with the unfiltered honesty of a child. We can't take it," Maria whispered, her voice soft but firm. "It's not ours. Someone lost it. We have to leave it, Lily." Lily bit her lip, staring at the wallet, a pang of curiosity and longing flickering across her face. She wanted to help, wanted to do the right thing, but she also knew how desperate their situation was. And yet, she trusted her mother's judgment. They stepped away slowly, but Lily couldn't help glancing back. Something inside her ached with responsibility. The knowledge that honesty, even in the face of need, was a choice she wanted to honor. Ethan observed all of this, hidden by the trees and distance. He watched Maria's hesitation, the tender hand-holding, the way she guided Lily through the moral complexity of a world that had shown them little mercy. He saw the bravery and honesty, the quiet courage of two lives struggling, yet refusing to compromise their integrity. Later, he left a small note near their apartment, a simple message. "I saw you. You did the right thing. Courage matters more than convenience." Maria discovered the note when she returned home, and for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to breathe deeply. She pressed it to her chest, feeling an odd warmth in her chest, a quiet affirmation that even unseen eyes recognized her struggle, their heart, their unwavering moral compass. Lily bounced in her excitement. "Mom, someone noticed. Someone saw what we did." Maria smiled, tears prickling her eyes. "Yes, baby, someone did. And that means kindness exists in the world, even when it feels far away." That small test, almost invisible in the grand scheme of life, marked a turning point. For Maria, it reinforced a belief that goodness still existed, that people could act without expecting anything in return. For Lily, it planted a seed of hope, an understanding that honesty, bravery, and love could be seen, even when the world seemed cruel. And for Ethan, watching quietly, it revealed the truth he had hoped to find, that real compassion was not performative, not conditional. It was a choice made in moments of quiet struggle, a choice that could change lives far more than money or grand gestures ever could. The day Ethan decided to step in, even in a small way, began like any other. Rain drizzled against the windows of Maria and Lily's apartment, soft and persistent, echoing the quiet tension that had long filled their lives. Maria, weary from another sleepless night, tried to stretch what little food remained across the day. Lily sat nearby, sketching pictures on scraps of paper, her small hand moving quickly, pouring heart and imagination into every line. There was a knock at the door, soft, deliberate. Maria froze, her stomach tightening. Visitors were rare, and strangers were even rarer. She hesitated, glancing at Lily. "Stay here, baby." "I'll check," she whispered, her voice steady, though her chest throbbed with anxiety. When Maria opened the door, she found a man standing there, Ethan. His presence was calm, unobtrusive, yet it carried a subtle authority. He held a simple brown paper bag, nothing flashy, nothing to suggest wealth or extravagance. "Hello," he said gently. I thought you might need this." Maria blinked, unsure how to respond. We don't even know you," she stammered, glancing down at Lily, who was peeking curiously from behind her mother's legs. Ethan offered a small, understanding smile. "I know, and I don't expect anything in return. I just saw what you're going through, thought it might help." Inside the bag were groceries. Simple things, enough to cover the next few meals. Fresh bread, eggs, some vegetables, a few small treats for Lily. But more than the food, it was the gesture that struck Maria. Someone had noticed them. Someone cared enough to act without expectation. Tears welled in Maria's eyes. She tried to steady her voice. I don't know what to say. Thank you, really." Lily ran forward, tugging at Ethan's sleeve. Thank you so much." Her small face shone with unfiltered joy, and in that moment, Maria felt a warmth she hadn't felt in months. Ethan knelt slightly to meet Lily's gaze. "You're very welcome," he said softly. "Just take care of each other. That's what matters most." After he left, Maria closed the door and sank onto the couch, hugging the bag to her chest. Lily climbed into her lap, pressing her small face into Maria's shoulder. "Mom, someone is helping us," she whispered. Maria nodded, her own tears slipping quietly. "Yes, baby, someone is. And maybe, just maybe, we're not as alone as we thought." That small act of kindness, groceries, simple words, a fleeting visit, carried more weight than any grand gesture could. It was the first bridge between despair and hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there were people willing to extend their hands without demand. For the first time in weeks, Maria allowed herself to imagine what life could be like if help continued, if support didn't come with hidden motives or harsh conditions. She realized that kindness, even in the smallest form, could spark transformation. And in Lily's bright eyes, shining with gratitude and excitement, Maria saw the reflection of hope, fragile but undeniable. That evening, as they prepared a modest meal from the groceries, Maria spoke softly to Lily. "We'll get through this, baby. We'll take it one step at a time. And now, we have a little help along the way." Lily smiled, her small hands carefully arranging the vegetables on the plate. "One step at a time," she echoed. And for the first time, both mother and daughter felt a little lighter, a little safer, and a little closer to a future where despair no longer dominated their every moment. Just as hope began to settle in Maria and Lily's hearts, life reminded them that struggle never truly disappears. A week after Ethan's first act of help, the apartment door creaked open to reveal an unexpected visitor, an inspector from the utility company. Maria's stomach tightened immediately. She had been careful, scrimping and saving wherever possible, but the unpaid bills had grown beyond her capacity. "Ma'am, I'm here about your electricity," the man said politely, clipboard in hand. "There's a notice of disconnection if payment isn't made today." Maria swallowed hard, her fingers clutching the edge of the counter. She forced a calm smile for Lily's sake. I see. We'll figure something out," she said, though her voice trembled. Lily, small but perceptive, noticed a change in her mother's expression. "Mom, what's wrong?" she asked softly, her hand seeking Maria's. Maria knelt, brushing Lily's damp hair from her face. "Nothing we can't handle. Baby, just a little problem. We'll fix it, I promise." But inside, Maria felt the familiar tightness of panic. The fragile bubble of hope that had begun to lift them out of despair seemed to puncture all at once. Nights of careful budgeting, days of scrimping on food, and hours of worry came crashing back, heavier than ever. To make matters worse, Lily's school called that afternoon. Tuition fees that had been deferred were now due, and the possibility of her being sent home loomed over Maria's mind like a storm cloud. She sat on the edge of the couch, head in her hands, feeling the weight of the world pressing down, suffocating. "Mom, what will we do?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling with the unspoken fear of losing the small stability they had begun to reclaim. Maria held her daughter close, her own tears slipping silently. "We'll figure out baby. Somehow, we always do, she said, repeating the words not because they were true, but because she had to believe them. Outside, the streets seemed harsher than ever. Even the simplest errands felt like navigating a maze of obstacles designed to test their resilience. Each step carried a whisper of doubt. Will they make it? Can they survive another setback? And yet, in the midst of this return of hardship, Maria noticed a quiet strength in Lily that surprised her. The little girl offered her own solutions, saving small amount of money from lunch, offering to take on chores at school to help reduce costs at home. Her courage, innocence, and determination were like sparks in the encroaching darkness, reminding Maria why she had to keep moving forward. At night, when the apartment was still, Maria reflected on how life seemed to swing between despair and relief, never allowing her to rest fully. She realized that help, while powerful, wasn't a cure-all. True resilience would come from within, the ability to face hardship repeatedly without surrendering, to rise even when the weight seemed unbearable. And as she tucked Lily into bed that evening, brushing her hair and holding her close, Maria whispered softly, "We've faced hard days before, baby, and we'll face them again. But together, we can survive anything." Lily smiled faintly, her eyes heavy with sleep, but bright with trust. Together, Mom, always together. Outside, rain began to fall again, heavier now, drumming a relentless rhythm on the roof. The sound could have been disheartening, could have drowned out their fragile hope. But inside the apartment, a quiet determination began to grow, a belief that even as obstacles returned, they could endure. Because resilience, Maria realized, wasn't the absence of struggle. It was a choice to keep moving forward, one small step at a time, even when the world seemed determined to push them back. Days passed, and despite the return of obstacles, a subtle shift began to take hold of Maria and Lily's lives. The groceries Ethan had left became more than sustenance. They became a symbol that someone, somewhere, cared. And while Maria remained cautious, there was an undeniable sense that they were no longer completely invisible in the world. One afternoon, as Lily returned from school carrying her small backpack, she spotted Ethan again, not at a distance this time, but standing near the corner of the street where she often walked home. He smiled when he saw her, a quiet, reassuring smile that felt almost familiar now. "Hi, Lily," he said gently. "How's your mom today?" Lily hesitated, surprised at his directness. Then with a shy smile, she replied, "She's okay, I think. We're managing." Ethan's gaze softened. "I can see that. You're both managing more than most people could. I think you're very strong." Lily beamed at the compliment and suddenly, without thinking, ran forward to hug him. "You're really nice. Mom says we have to be careful with strangers, but you're different." Ethan laughed softly, kneeling slightly to meet her gaze. "I'm glad you think so," he said. "I just want to help where I can. That's all." Maria, watching from the doorway, felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. Her instincts urged caution. How could someone be so generous without expectation? Was it truly kindness or something else? Yet the genuine connection in Lily's face, the unfiltered joy and trust, began to chip away at her skepticism. Over the next few days, Ethan found subtle ways to support them, dropping off extra supplies, leaving small, encouraging notes, and occasionally checking in without demanding attention. He didn't force himself into their lives. Instead, he created spaces where they could choose to let him in little by little. One evening, after a long day of chores and school, Maria noticed a note slipped under her door. "I believe in you. You are not alone." Tears blurred her vision as she held it close. She had spent so long alone, so long believing that the world had no place for people like her and Lily. And now, someone had noticed not just their need, but their courage, their strength. Lily tugged at her mother's hand, excitement bright in her eyes. "Mom, someone really cares. They see us, really see us." Maria nodded, a quiet smile breaking through her exhaustion. "Yes, baby, someone does. And maybe that's what matters most. Not the things we need, but the fact that we're being seen, being noticed for who we are." That night, as they shared a modest meal and laughter that felt brighter than it had in months, Maria allowed herself to imagine a future that was gentler, more hopeful. She began to see that connection could arrive unexpectedly, that trust would be built in small moments, and that compassion could transform even the hardest circumstances. Ethan, in turn, noticed the subtle changes. He saw the way Maria's posture softened when Lily laughed, the way their eyes held a new spark of hope, and he realized that sometimes the simplest act of kindness were the most powerful. In the quiet of that evening, a fragile but undeniable bond had formed, a connection built on observation, trust, and shared humanity. Maria and Lily, cautious yet slowly opening their hearts, began to understand that life would offer unexpected allies, and that sometimes the world's kindness came not in grand gestures, but in consistent, patient presence. And as they settled in for the night, holding each other close, the apartment felt warmer, not because the walls had changed, but because hope had begun to grow inside them, a quiet, steady flame that refused to be extinguished, even when the storms outside continued to rage. Weeks passed since Ethan had first quietly stepped into Maria and Lily's lives. Each small act of kindness had softened the weight of their struggle, but the world continued to press down relentlessly. Bills still came, groceries still ran low, and the apartment walls seemed to echo every worry and fear. One morning, Ethan decided it was time for a more direct intervention. Not a fleeting gesture this time, but something substantial, something that could provide real relief and a sense of stability. He arrived at their apartment quietly, carrying a small stack of envelopes and packages, but it wasn't the material value that mattered. It was the opportunity he was offering them. Maria opened the door cautiously. Ethan, He raised a hand gently, stopping her before she could speak. I don't want anything in return, he said softly. I just want to make sure you and Lily have a chance to breathe, to take a step forward without the weight of worry pressing on you constantly. Inside, he laid out the envelopes and packages on the table. A month's rent paid, a week's worth of groceries, vouchers for school supplies, and even a small gift for Lily, a book she had mentioned wanting weeks before, now wrapped neatly in paper with her name written carefully on it. Lily's eyes widened in disbelief. Mom, it's too much, she exclaimed, her voice a mix of joy and astonishment. Maria felt a lump in her throat, tears threatening to spill. I don't know what to say, she whispered, her fingers trembling as they hovered over the envelopes. This changes everything. Ethan shook his head, smiling softly. It doesn't change everything, Maria. It gives you breathing room, a chance to focus on what really matters, each other, your daughter, and rebuilding the life you've been working so hard to protect. Lily jumped forward and hugged Ethan tightly, her small arms wrapping around him with unrestrained gratitude. Thank you so much. Maria watched her daughter, and in that moment, she realized something profound. The gesture was more than money, groceries, or gifts. It was validation, proof that the world could still be kind, that there were people willing to act selflessly, and that hope could arrive in tangible ways. As the day progressed, Maria and Lily began to unpack the packages, organizing the groceries, setting aside the school vouchers, and marveling at the simple joy of having one less burden to carry. Laughter, long absent from the apartment, returned softly, filling the space with warmth and light. Later, Maria sat with Ethan quietly, finally allowed herself to voice what had been heavy in her heart for months. I don't know how to thank you, truly. You've given us more than help. You've given us hope, something I thought we'd lost forever. Ethan's expression softened. You've already shown me the strength it takes to survive, Maria. You and Lily have resilience most people can't even imagine. I just wanted to give you a chance to see that for yourselves. Lily, peeking from behind Maria, smiled brightly. Mom, maybe life isn't always scary. Maybe there are good people out there. Maria nodded, holding her daughter close. Yes, baby. And sometimes the right person shows up at exactly the right time. That day marked a turning point. The gesture was more than material. It was symbolic, a bridge from survival to a renewed sense of possibility. Maria and Lily felt seen, valued, and cared for, and the spark of hope that had been flickering quietly in the shadows now grew steadily, illuminating a path toward a future where struggle didn't define them entirely. Ethan left later that evening, quietly slipping back into the background of their lives, leaving behind not just gifts, but the quiet assurance that they weren't alone. And as Maria tucked Lily into bed, she whispered softly, "We're going to be okay, baby. One step at a time, together." For the first time in months, sleep came easier, the weight of worry less oppressive, and the bond between mother and daughter strengthened by the knowledge that life could offer kindness, even in the darkest moments. After the big gesture, life began to shift in ways Maria and Lily had not dared to imagine. The weight that pressed down on them for so long, the unending worry, the gnawing fear, was still there in the background, but for the first time, it felt manageable. A small window had opened, offering a glimpse of a life where struggle did not dominate every moment. Lily woke the next morning with a bright, almost uncontainable energy. She ran to Maria's side, clutching the small book Ethan had gifted her. "Mom, look what we have. Can we read it together?" Maria smiled, brushing her daughter's hair back. The simplicity of the request felt monumental. Once, even moments like this had been overshadowed by worry and exhaustion. Now, they could savor it, truly savor it, without the crushing weight of despair pressing in. Over the next few days, they began to make small changes. Maria rearranged her modest apartment, making it feel lighter, cleaner, more like a home rather than a place of survival. She cooked meals without counting every penny obsessively, savoring the act of nourishment rather than enduring it as a necessity. And Lily, inspired by the kindness she had received, started helping her mother in ways that felt joyful rather than burdensome, setting the table carefully, reading aloud from her new book, or drawing cheerful pictures to hang on the walls. The transformation wasn't just physical. Emotionally, both mother and daughter began to heal. Maria's posture straightened, her voice carried warmth again, and her laughter returned, soft but genuine. Lily's eyes sparkled more brightly. Her small hands moved with confidence, and the weight of fear that had once lingered over her every step began to lift. Even interactions outside their apartment changed. Maria, walking to corner store, found herself exchanging smiles with neighbors she had long avoided, feeling a subtle connection she hadn't realized she had missed. Lily greeted her classmates with renewed confidence, sharing little stories about her day that now held fragments of hope and joy instead of worry and scarcity. One evening, as they sat together after dinner, Maria held Lily close and whispered, "Do you feel it, baby? Things are different now." Lily nodded enthusiastically, her small fingers tracing patterns on the table. "Yes, Mom, it feels lighter, like maybe the world isn't so scary anymore." And Maria realized that the transformation was deeper than any material gift. It was a change in perspective, a shift in the heart. Life was still unpredictable, challenges still awaited, but now they had a foundation, hope, support, and trust that could carry them through the storm. Ethan, observing from a distance, saw the subtle signs of this change. The laughter that had returned, the calm confidence in Maria's movements, the joyful energy in Lily's steps. All of it spoke louder than words. He realized that sometimes the most profound impact wasn't in grand, immediate fixes, but in creating the space for people to rediscover themselves, to reclaim their strength and resilience. That night, as Maria tucked Lily into bed, the little girl whispered, "Mom, do you think someone will always help us if we need it?" Maria held her tightly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "We'll always find help, baby. Sometimes it comes from people like Ethan. Sometimes it comes from inside us. But the important thing is we'll never give up. Together, we can handle anything." And for the first time in months, both of them slept peacefully, their hearts lighter, their bond stronger, and the fragile flame of hope now a steady glow that promised brighter days ahead. Even as their lives began to improve, the shadows of doubt and mistrust lingered. Maria, though grateful for Ethan's help, struggled to fully open her heart. She had been disappointed too many times, let down by people she had hoped would care, and the scars of past struggles ran deep. Helping hands had come and gone before, some with conditions, some with expectations. "Mom, why don't you smile as much when Ethan is around?" Lily asked one evening, tilting her head with innocent curiosity. Maria paused, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's not that I don't want to smile, baby. It's just, sometimes it's hard to trust. People say they want to help, But what if there's something they want from us in return? Lily frowned. But he's nice, he's kind. Doesn't that matter? Maria sighed, pulling her daughter close. It does matter, sweetheart. But kindness can't erase every fear. I have to make sure it's real and not just a temporary thing. Ethan noticed this too. He could see the hesitation in Maria's eyes, the subtle walls she had built around her heart to protect herself and Lily. He didn't push. He waited patiently, giving them space to test his intentions, to see consistency in his actions over time. Weeks passed, and the test of trust continued, though silently. Ethan remained steady, offering support when needed, never forcing himself into their lives. He was careful not to overstep boundaries, yet present enough to be noticed. Slowly, Maria observed the patterns, small act of reliability that contrasted sharply with the unpredictability of the world she had known for so long. One evening, when a sudden leak in the apartment ceiling threatened to ruin the few possessions they had, Ethan appeared without a word, tools in hand, ready to help. Maria, initially hesitant, watched as he worked quietly, efficiently, and without any hint of expectation. Lily's eyes widened as she realized the truth of his kindness. It was unwavering, consistent, and completely genuine. Mom, see? He's helping us again. For real, Lily whispered, her voice full of wonder. Maria nodded slowly, a tear slipping down her cheek. Yes, baby, I see that now. Even so, trust didn't bloom overnight. There were nights when Maria's mind replayed old disappointments, doubts creeping in like unwelcome shadows. She found herself hesitating, questioning Ethan's motives, worried that one day he might withdraw his support or that something worse might happen. And yet, the moments of genuine care, repeated over time, began to chip away at her skepticism. She realized that trust wasn't about blind faith. It was about observing patterns, recognizing consistency, and allowing the heart to gradually soften after long periods of guarding it. One afternoon, while preparing a small meal, Maria spoke quietly to Lily. Baby, trust is hard when you've been hurt, but we can learn to trust again, little by little. We don't have to rush it. Lily smiled, leaning against her mother. I think we can, especially if he keeps being nice like this. Maria allowed herself a small laugh, the first in days that felt completely unguarded. She realized that her journey toward trust mirrored her journey toward hope, cautious, careful, yet growing steadily, fueled by acts of consistent kindness and genuine care. That night, as they settled into bed, Maria whispered to Lily, one day, baby, we'll see that it's okay to open our hearts. That some people truly want to help, not because they gain anything, but because they care. Lily nodded sleepily. I think we're starting to see that now, Mom. And for the first time in months, the quiet tension that had lingered over their lives began to soften, replaced by a fragile but steady sense of security. The path of trust was still challenging, still fraught with uncertainty, but the seeds had been planted, and with patience, love, and consistency, they could grow into a bond strong enough to withstand the hardships that still awaited them. The days that followed felt different, lighter, as though the constant pressure of survival had loosened just enough to allow hope and love to flourish. Maria and Lily had begun to believe that life could be gentle, that they could find support not only from strangers like Ethan, but also within themselves and each other. One crisp morning, Lily bounded into the small kitchen, her laughter spilling like sunlight. Mom, look, I drew a picture of us, me, you, and the nice man who's been helping us. She held up a colorful sketch, vibrant and full of life. Maria smiled, her heart swelling. It's beautiful, baby. You captured so much joy in it. As they prepared a simple breakfast together, Maria reflected on everything that had happened. The fear, the struggle, the small moment of hope, and the extraordinary act of kindness that had slowly transformed their lives. She realized that the true gift Ethan had given them wasn't just food, rent money, or school supplies. It was a reminder that the world still held people who cared, that life could offer compassion when least expected. Later that afternoon, Ethan stopped by once more, not with packages or notes this time, but simply with his presence. He sat quietly in the corner, watching Maria and Lily interact, seeing the joy in their simple routines. You've come a long way, he said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. Maria looked up, her eyes shining. "We couldn't have done it alone. You've helped more than you know." Ethan shook his head, smiling gently. "No, it's all you. I only offered a hand. You and Lily found the strength to rise above everything. That's what matters." Lily ran forward, hugging him tightly. "Thank you. You helped us so much." Maria watched, tears welling in her eyes. She realized in that moment that trust, compassion, and resilience had intertwined in ways she had never imagined. They had faced hardship, fear, and doubt, and yet here they were, stronger, closer, and filled with hope. As the evening sun streamed through the apartment window, Maria took Lily's hand, holding it tightly. "Baby, remember this. Kindness exists, hope exists, and we can always find a way through even the darkest times." Lily nodded, her small face glowing with certainty. "I'll remember, Mom, and I'll be kind too, just like Ethan." Maria smiled, feeling a profound peace. The transformation they had undergone was more than just relief from hardship. It was a rebirth of faith in humanity, a reassurance that even when life feels unbearable, there are moments and people that can restore it. Ethan quietly rose to leave, knowing his role in their lives had shifted. He had guided them, offered support, and sparked hope, but the true change had come from within Maria and Lily, the courage to trust, to persist, and to believe in goodness again. As the door closed behind him, Maria hugged Lily tightly. "We're going to be okay, baby. Together, we can face anything." And in that warm, quiet apartment, mother and daughter sat together, the soft glow of the setting sun illuminating their faces. They knew challenges would still come, but now they faced them with resilience, hope, and the unwavering bond that hardship had forged. In the end, it wasn't just about help received. It was about hearts opened, trust rebuilt, and a future illuminated by compassion. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Maria whispered to herself, with a smile and a deep, steady breath, "We are not alone. We are never alone." And that's how a little girl's cry for help turned into a story of hope, courage, and unexpected kindness. If this story touched your heart, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our family here at Heartfelt Tales TV. Because every story matters, and there's always more hope to share.